The fourth day of the tournament started with terrible news. The great champion Vox Talon from the Proxima system had fallen sick during the night. He was supposed to fight in the final match, but something had gone wrong with his body. The medical robots that checked him said he had caught a rare space virus that made him too weak to fight Vox Talon. Had been the champion for 50 years, he had never lost a single battle, and everyone expected him to win again this year, but now he was lying. In the medical bay, unable to even stand up, the virus was eating away at his strength, and the doctors said it would take weeks for him to get better. The arena director was a strange alien creature with many long arms like an octopus. His name was Director Zephmon, and he was running around in circles because he was so worried without a final champion to fight against the tournament winner. Everything would be ruined. The Galactic Council had very strict rules about these tournaments. If there was no final battle, then the whole championship would be cancelled. This would be a disaster that had never happened before in the history of the galaxy. All the trade agreements and territory claims that were supposed to be decided by this tournament would have to wait another 100 years. The political chaos would be enormous. Some alien civilizations might even start wars over it. Director Zephmon called an emergency meeting with all the ambassadors and important officials. Everyone was talking at once, trying to figure out what to do. Some suggested postponing the tournament, but the rules said it had to finish on schedule. Others wanted to find a replacement champion, but where could they find someone good enough on such short notice? We need anyone who can at least put up a decent fight, the director said desperately to his staff. The reputation of this entire event is at stake. All the civilizations in the galaxy are watching us. If we fail here, we will be a laughingstock. For centuries, Ambassador Tejo found himself pulled into the emergency meeting even though Earth was just observing. The alien officials were so desperate, they were asking every delegation if they had anyone who could fight. Surely Earth must have some warrior they can offer. The director pleaded with Tejo. We will waive all the usual requirements. Your fighter does not need to have won previous tournaments. They just need to be able to last more than 5 minutes in the arena. Tejo felt his heart sink to his stomach. He knew this was hopeless. I am very sorry, but we did not bring any fighters with us, he said sadly. We are only here to watch and learn. Our military personnel are all back on Earth, and even if they were here, he stopped talking because he knew the truth. Even Earth's best soldiers would be destroyed in seconds by any of these alien champions. The meeting room fell silent. Everyone was thinking the same thing. Earth was their last hope, and Earth had nothing to offer. It looked like the tournament would have to be cancelled for the first time in galactic history. That was when someone knocked on the meeting room door. One of the director's assistants opened it, and there stood Jinwoo. He was still wearing his blue janitor uniform and holding his mop in one hand. He looked very small and ordinary compared to all the important aliens in the room. Excuse me, Jinwoo said politely in his Korean-accented English, but I could not help hearing your conversation from outside. You need someone to fight in the final match. The alien officials stared at him like he had grown a second head. A janitor was interrupting their emergency meeting. Some of them started making angry noises in their alien languages. Sir, please return to your cleaning duties, Tejo said quickly. He felt embarrassed that a human worker was bothering these important aliens during such a serious crisis. But Jinwoo did not leave. Instead, he stepped into the room and closed the door behind him. I volunteer to fight, he said in a calm, clear voice. The silence that followed was so complete you could have heard a pin drop. Then several of the aliens began making sounds that could only be described as laughter in their different ways. Some clicked their tongues rapidly, others made rumbling noises, and one alien that looked like a giant bird started flapping its wings. Director Zephmon said with his tentacle arms wiggling in what seemed like amusement. A waste management worker wants to face the tournament champion, someone who has trained their whole life to be the greatest fighter in the galaxy. Jinwoo nodded seriously. Yes, sir. Me, the bird-like alien spoke up in a high, screeching voice. This is ridiculous. The final champion will be someone who has defeated dozens of the greatest warriors in known space. They will be faster, stronger, and more skilled than anything this human can imagine. Another alien that looked like a walking tree with glowing bark added, the human would be killed before he could even move. This is not a game where anyone can participate. These are battles between the ultimate representatives of entire civilizations. But Jinwoo stood his ground. He looked each of the aliens in their various types of eyes and said, I understand the risks, I know I might die, but Earth needs this chance and I am the only human here who can take it. Director Zephmon studied Jinwoo with all of his tentacle eyes. What makes you think you could survive even 1 minute against a galactic champion human? Your species has barely learned to leave your home planet. Jinwoo smiled slightly, but said nothing. He knew that explaining his military background would not help right now. These aliens would never believe that a human soldier could be dangerous. They saw humans as weak, primitive creatures who had just discovered space travel. Taeho stepped forward looking very worried. Jinwoo, I do not know what you are thinking, but this is suicide. These beings could destroy our entire military without breaking a sweat eye. No, Ambassador Jinwoo replied, but sometimes someone has to take the impossible chance. Sometimes the person who looks weakest is the one who can find a way to win. The room erupted in more alien laughter and discussion. Director Zephmon waved his tentacles for silence. Fine, he said finally. If this human wants to throw his life away for nothing, we will allow it. But when he is destroyed in the first few seconds, do not blame us for his death. Jinwoo bowed politely in the Korean way. Thank you for this opportunity. I will need 1 hour to prepare myself. 1 hour, the tree alien screeched. What could you possibly do in 1 hour that would make any difference? Jinwoo picked up his mop and tested its weight and balance the same way a swordsman might test a blade. I'm going to get ready, he said simply as he walked toward the door. Director Zephmon called after him, Human, what is your name for the records? Jinwoo paused at the doorway. Park Jinwoo, he said, and thank you for giving Earth this chance. Even if I lose, at least we will have tried. After he left the room, the aliens continued talking among themselves. Most of them were already planning what to do after the human was quickly defeated. They had no idea that they had just agreed to let one of the most dangerous soldiers Earth had ever produced into their arena. Jinwoo walked back toward the maintenance areas, knowing he had exactly 60 minutes to prepare for the fight of his life. The biggest arena in the whole galaxy floated in empty space between the stars. It was huge, bigger than 10 football stadiums put together. The walls were made of special crystal that glowed with different colors from all the alien worlds that helped build it. Inside this amazing place, the most important fight in the universe was about to happen. Every 100 years, all the smart alien races came together for one big competition. This was not just any normal fight, this was the Centennial Combat Championship. The winners would get to control the best trade routes in space. They would get the richest planets, and they would be the boss of everyone else for the next 100 years. It was the most important event that happened in the galaxy. Ambassador Kim Taeho sat in the special seats for important people. He was wearing his best formal clothes, but he felt very nervous and small. Earth had only been invited to watch this time, not to fight the other alien ambassadors around him. Acted like he was not even there. They thought humans were too young and too weak to matter. Earth had only learned how to travel between stars a few years ago, while some of these aliens had been doing it for thousands of years. Down in the fighting area, a huge creature was winning his battle. The alien was 12 feet tall with arms as thick as tree trunks. He came from a planet near the star Rigel. His opponent was a fast warrior with blade arms from the Vega colonies, but the big alien was too strong. The crowd made all kinds of noise. Some aliens clicked their tongues, some roared like lions, and some spoke with their minds instead of their mouths. The arena computer spoke in a voice that everyone could understand, no matter what language they spoke. Next up, the defending champions from the Altair Federation will fight the challenger from the Centauri Empire. Taeho watched as 2 more incredible fighters walked into the arena. The first one was made of pure energy held inside a special battle suit that glowed bright blue. The second one looked like a walking mountain made of rock with sharp crystal spikes growing out of his body. These were not just regular fighters, these were the absolute best warriors that their whole civilizations could produce. They had been made stronger with special technology and trained since they were babies just for this one moment. That energy being moved like lightning, shooting bolts of power at his opponent. The rock creature was slower, but nothing seemed to hurt him. When the energy bolts hit him, they just bounced off his crystal spikes. The crowd cheered louder and louder as the 2 fighters crashed into each other again and again. Taeho felt sad and disappointed as he watched. Earth had been invited to this event as a nice gesture to show that the galaxy was friendly to newcomers, But really, everyone knew that humans could never compete with beings like this. Even Earth's strongest soldiers and best athletes would look like little children next to these alien warriors, the energy being finally won by overloading the rock creatures' crystal spikes until they exploded. The crowd went wild with excitement. Tejo clapped politely, but inside he felt embarrassed that his species was so weak compared to everyone else far below the main arena in the service tunnels that ran underneath the great building. Someone else was watching the fights. Park Jin-woo pushed his cleaning cart down the long hallway, stopping now and then to mop up spills or empty trash cans. He was wearing the plain blue uniform that all the maintenance workers had to wear. Everyone who saw him thought he was just another janitor, one of the hundreds of people who kept the massive arena clean. And running Jin-woo had a small screen on his cart that showed the fights happening above. He watched every move, every technique, every time a fighter made a mistake. He had been doing this for 3 days now, studying each alien species and how they fought. Most people would think he was just killing time while he worked, but Jin-woo was doing something much more important. He was learning what nobody in the arena knew, not the alien ambassadors, not the fighters, not even Ambassador Tejo, was that Jin-woo had not always been a janitor before he came to work in this floating arena. He had been something very different. He had been a soldier. A very special kind of soldier. Jin-woo stopped his cart and watched as another fight began. This time it was a spider-like creature with 8 arms fighting against a warrior that looked like a giant lizard. The spider being was incredibly fast, using all 8 arms to attack from different directions at once. But the lizard warrior was smart and patient. He waited for the right moment and then grabbed 4 of the spider arms at once. The spider being could not escape and had to give up. The crowd cheered again, and Jin-woo made a mental note about what he had just seen. The spider fighter was strong but had gotten too excited and made a mistake. The lizard fighter had won by staying calm and waiting for his chance. This was important information that Jin-woo stored away in his memory as Jin-woo continued pushing his cart through the tunnels. He thought about his old life. He had been Captain Park Jin-woo of the 707th Special Operations Unit in the Republic of Korea Marine Corps. It was the most secret military program that Earth had ever created. The training had been so hard that most soldiers could not finish it. The ones who did finish became something more than human. The program had taught him how to fight in ways that normal people could never imagine. He learned to read his enemies' moves before they made them. He learned to turn anything into a weapon, even something as simple as a pencil or a piece of string. He learned to survive in places that would kill regular people in seconds. But most importantly, he learned that the strongest weapon was not muscles or guns. It was understanding your enemy better than they understood themselves. The program had been shut down after some bad things happened. The survivors like Jin-woo were given new names and new lives. Jin-woo had chosen to become a janitor because, after all the fighting and violence he had seen, cleaning floors seemed peaceful. It was honest work that helped people instead of hurting them. But now, as he watched these alien warriors fighting, Jin-woo started to think that maybe his peaceful life was about to end. He could see things that the fighters could not see. He could spot weaknesses that they did not know they had. And most importantly, he could see that for all their strength and technology, they all had one big weakness. They had never fought a human. Jin-woo finished mopping the floor in his section and moved on to the next area. On his small screen, he could see that the tournament was getting close to the final rounds. Tomorrow, they would crown the champion who would rule the galaxy for the next 100 years. As he worked, Jin-woo began to form an idea. It was a crazy idea that would probably get him killed. But it was also an idea that might just change everything for humanity. He looked at his mop and cleaning supplies and smiled quietly to himself. Tomorrow was going to be a very interesting day. Ambassador Tejo caught up with Jin-woo in the maintenance hallway and grabbed his arm. "What are you thinking?" he whispered urgently. "This is not some action movie. This is real life. These aliens could kill you just by looking at you." Wrong. Jin-woo stopped walking and turned to face the ambassador. "Do you know what I did before I became a janitor?" he asked quietly. Tejo looked confused. "I assumed you were just looking for work off Earth. Many people take maintenance jobs on space stations too." "See the galaxy?" Jin-woo shook his head slowly. "I was Captain Park Jin-woo, 707th Special Operations Unit, Republic of Korea Marine Corps. I spent 10 years in the most classified military program Earth has ever created." The ambassador stared at him with His mouth opened, but your employment records say you have always been a civilian worker. My records say whatever the government needed them to say. Jinwoo explained after the program was shut down. Those of us who survived were given completely new identities, new backgrounds, new lives. I chose to become a janitor because after everything I had seen and done, cleaning floors seemed like a blessing. What kind of program? Taeho asked in a whisper. Jinwoo looked around to make sure no one was listening. The kind where they take regular soldiers and push them far beyond every human limit. The kind where they teach you to turn anything into a weapon, where they train you to read your enemy's moves before they even know what they are going to do. The kind where you learn to survive in environments that would kill normal people in seconds. The ambassador was having trouble believing what he was hearing, but how is that possible? Our military technology is nothing compared to what these aliens have. Jinwoo picked up his mop again and examined it carefully like he was seeing it for the first time. You are right, Ambassador, our technology is not as advanced as theirs. But there is something these aliens do not understand about humans, something they have never encountered before. What is that? We adapt, Jinwoo said simply. Every other species in this galaxy became strong in one particular way. Some became very big, some became very fast, some developed incredible mental powers, but they all specialized in being the best at one thing. Humans are different. We survive by learning to use whatever we have in ways that no one expects. Jinwoo started walking toward the equipment storage area. I've been watching these fights for 3 days. Ambassador, every species, every fighting style, every technique they use, they are all incredibly powerful and skilled, but they have one major weakness. Taeho followed him, feeling more confused. What weakness? They have never fought a human. Jinwoo replied. They have never faced someone who was trained to turn weakness into strength, someone who was taught that the best weapon is not the strongest one, but the most unexpected one. They reached the equipment storage room where fighters could choose their weapons and armor for battle. The room was filled with incredible technology. Energy swords that could cut through anything, armor that could stop nuclear explosions, weapons that could destroy entire buildings. But Jinwoo walked past all of it. Instead, he went to the maintenance supply closet. He pulled out his regular mop, a spray bottle filled with industrial cleaning fluid, and a small toolkit that had basic tools, like screwdrivers and wrenches. Taeho watched in horror. You are going to fight a galactic champion with cleaning supplies? Jinwoo tested the weight and balance of his mop, spinning it like a fighting staff. I'm going to fight with what I know how to use, he said. Every weapon in that equipment room is designed for alien hands, alien fighting styles, alien ways of thinking. But this mop, I know this mop. I have used one like it every day for months. I understand exactly how it moves, how much it weighs, how it will react in my hands. But a mop against advanced alien technology? Jinwoo smiled. Do you remember the old Korean stories our grandfathers used to tell, the ones about farmers who defeated samurai warriors with bamboo sticks, about servants who outwitted kings and emperors? Those are just stories. Taeho protested. No, Jinwoo said firmly, they are lessons. They teach us that power is not everything. Sometimes the most dangerous opponent is the one who has been underestimated by everyone. Sometimes the person who looks weakest is the one who has learned to fight with nothing to lose. Jinwoo started walking toward the arena entrance. I need to see the fighting area before the match. I need to understand the space where I will be fighting. As they walked, Taeho kept trying to talk him out of it. Even if you are some kind of super soldier, these aliens are not human. They have capabilities that we cannot even understand. I know, Jinwoo said. That is exactly why I might have a chance. They understand each other. They know what to expect from other galactic species, but me, I'm something completely outside their experience. They reached the edge of the arena where Jinwoo could look out at the fighting space. It was a large circular area with a smooth floor and high walls. The surface looked like polished metal, but Jinwoo knew from watching the previous fights that it was much more than that. The arena floor could change its properties during battle. Sometimes it became slippery, sometimes it generated electrical fields, sometimes gravity worked differently in certain areas. The fighters were expected to adapt to these changes as part of the challenge. Jinwoo studied every inch of the arena, memorizing the layout, the exits, the places where the floor seemed to have different textures. He was building a complete map in his mind, just like he had been trained to do in his military days. In The stands above thousands of alien spectators were already gathering for the final match. Most of them had no idea what was about to happen. They thought they were going to watch a quick execution followed by the real championship fight. Jinwoo could see some of his fellow maintenance workers in the crowd. His supervisor Choi Sunya was there along with his friend Lee Dongmin. They looked worried and confused about what was happening. Sunya had been like a mother to all the human workers. She made sure everyone ate properly and got enough rest. She treated Jinwoo like he was her own son, even though she knew almost nothing about his past. Dongmin had become Jinwoo's closest friend among the workers. They often ate lunch together and talked about their families back on Earth. Dongmin had a wife and 2 young children, and he worked in space to earn money for their education. Seeing them in the crowd made Jinwoo more determined. He was not just fighting for himself or even for Earth, he was fighting for all the humans who had left their home planet looking for a better life. He was fighting for everyone who had ever been told they were not good enough, not strong enough, not important enough. The final preparations were almost complete. Jinwoo had his weapons chosen, his strategy planned, and his mind focused. Now all he had to do was face the greatest warrior in the galaxy and somehow find a way to win. While the arena announcers tried to explain to the confused crowd why a human janitor was suddenly fighting in the championship, Jinwoo walked slowly through the fighter preparation areas. He passed other competitors who were getting ready for smaller matches, and every single one of them stared at him like he had lost his mind. The other fighters were all incredible specimens of their species. A warrior from the Centauri system was practicing with energy blades that cut through solid steel like butter. A female fighter from the Arcturus colonies was lifting weights that would crush a normal human instantly. Another competitor was a robot warrior whose metal body could reshape itself into different weapon forms. They all stopped what they were doing to watch the small human carrying a mop and cleaning supplies. Some of them started laughing, others looked confused. A few seemed almost insulted that someone so obviously weak was in the same area as them. Jinwoo ignored all of them. He found a quiet corner and began what looked like the strangest pre-fight ritual anyone had ever seen. Instead of pumping himself up or practicing combat moves, he started cleaning. He methodically wiped down his mop handle, checking every inch of it for splinters or rough spots. He tested the mop head to make sure it was securely attached. He examined his spray bottle, making sure the nozzle worked properly and that the cleaning fluid was mixed to exactly the right strength. Lee Dongmin had followed him down from the maintenance areas. "Brother," he said nervously, "what are you really doing? This cannot be worth dying for. Why are you throwing your life away?" Jinwoo looked up from cleaning his equipment. "Dongmin, do you remember the old stories our grandfathers used to tell about the farmers who defeated trained samurai with simple bamboo sticks, about the servants who outwitted powerful kings? Those are just stories from long ago," Dongmin protested. "This is real life with real aliens who can destroy planets." Jinwoo stood up and tested the balance of his mop again. "No, they are not just stories. They are lessons about how to think when you are facing something much more powerful than yourself. They teach us that sometimes the person who looks weakest is actually the most dangerous, because they have learned to fight in ways that their enemy never expects." Dongmin shook his head. "I still do not understand." Jinwoo put his hand on his friend's shoulder. "In my old job, I learned that the most important part of any battle happens before the fighting even starts. You have to understand your enemy better than they understand themselves. You have to see their weaknesses before they know they have them." "What weaknesses could these alien champions possibly have?" "They are too confident," Jinwoo said simply. "They have won so many battles that they think they know everything about fighting. They expect their enemies to fight in certain ways using certain techniques. But I am not going to fight the way they expecting." The main arena area, the current champion was warming up. Carthol, the destroyer, was 8 feet tall and covered in natural armor. Plating that looked like it was made from black metal. His home planet had gravity 10 times stronger than Earth, which meant his muscles were incredibly powerful. He had 4 arms that each ended in claws, sharp enough to cut through steel. Carthol had been enhanced with cybernetic implants that made him even more dangerous. His reflexes were faster than lightning. His strength could crush rocks to powder. His endurance meant he could fight for hours without getting tired. He was the perfect killing machine designed by thousands of years of evolution and then improved by advanced technology. The crowd was getting more excited as fight time approached. Most of the spectators had never seen a human before, and this one looked impossibly fragile compared to Carthol. Some aliens were placing bets on how quickly the fight would end. The longest anyone was willing to bet was 30 seconds. Ambassador Tejo sat in the VIP section sweating despite the arena's perfect climate control. Around him, the other ambassadors were either ignoring him completely or offering what seemed like sympathy in their various alien cultures. It is admirable that your species values honor over survival, commented the snake-like delegate from the Draco system, but this seems unnecessarily tragic. Your warrior will be remembered for his courage even though he cannot possibly win. The reptilian ambassador from Alpha Centauri nodded agreement. Perhaps this sacrifice will show the galaxy that humans have brave hearts even if they lack the physical capabilities for real. Combata Ho wanted to defend Jinwoo, but he did not know what to say. He still could not believe that a janitor was about to fight the most dangerous warrior in known spacedown. In the preparation area, Jinwoo was finishing his equipment check. He had also been studying detailed maps of the arena on a small computer tablet that he had borrowed from the maintenance office. He was memorizing every surface, every angle, every place where the arena floor had different properties. His supervisor, Choi Soon-ya, appeared at his side. She was a tough old woman who had worked in space for 20 years, but now she looked scared and said, "You better come back alive," she said in Korean, "or I will have to train a replacement, and you know how much I hate training new people." Jinwoo grinned at her. "Yes, ma'am. Cannot have that. I promise I will do my best to come back soon." Ya reached into her pocket and pulled out a small good luck charm that her grandmother had given her. It was an old Korean symbol for protection. "Take this," she said. "It belonged to my family for 3 generations." Jinwoo accepted the charm and put it in his pocket. "Thank you, Sunya. That means more to me than you know." The arena doors began to open, and the sound of the crowd hit them like a physical force. Thousands of aliens all waiting to see the human die in spectacular fashion. As Jinwoo walked toward the entrance carrying his mop and wearing his simple janitor uniform, the noise gradually died down to confused murmurs on the opposite side of the arena. Carthol emerged to thunderous applause. He raised all 4 arms in triumph, showing off his deadly claws. The crowd loved him. He was everything a galactic champion should be: powerful, confident, and absolutely terrifying. The announcer began speaking in a voice that echoed throughout the massive arena. "Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of all classifications, welcome to the final match of the Centennial Combat Championship. In this corner, representing the pinnacle of galactic warrior tradition, Carthol, the destroyer champion of 17 worlds, slayer of the great worm of Kepler 442b, undefeated in 312 consecutive battles." The crowd roared with excitement. In this corner, the announcer continued with obvious uncertainty, representing the planet Earth, Park Jinwoo, profession maintenance worker. The silence that followed was so complete that Jinwoo could hear his own heartbeat, but he was not afraid. He had spent his whole military career preparing for impossible situations. This was just another mission, except this time the fate of humanity was riding on whether he could clean the floor better than anyone expected. The arena force field hummed to life, creating an invisible barrier that would contain the fighting area. The rules were simple and brutal. Combat would continue until one fighter surrendered, was knocked unconscious, or died. No weapons other than what each fighter brought into the arena were allowed. No outside help was permitted. Carthol looked across the arena at Jinwoo and let out a sound that was part laughter and part predator growl. "Little cleaner," he called out in Galactic standard language, his voice carrying easily across the space. "You should have stayed with your mops and buckets. I will make this quick and painless for you." Jinwoo said nothing in response. He simply stood there holding his mop like a fighting staff and studying his opponent with calm, focused eyes. He was doing what his military training had taught him to do in every combat situation: read the enemy, learn their patterns, find their weaknesses. The countdown began, echoing through the arena. 10, 9, 8. In the crowd, some spectators were already looking away, unwilling to watch what they expected to be a brutal massacre. Others were leaning forward, curious to see how quickly the human would fall. 7, 6, 5. Jinwoo took a deep breath and centered himself the way he had been trained to do before every mission. His heart rate slowed, his muscles relaxed. His mind became completely clear and focused. 4-3 Twokarthal crouched low, preparing to launch himself across the arena at tremendous speed. His plan was simple and had worked in every one of his previous battles. Close the distance, quickly overwhelm the opponent with superior strength, and end the fight with one devastating attack. One begin. Karthal exploded forward, moving faster than most people could even see. His massive form covered the distance between them in less than 2 seconds, all 4 arms extended and ready to tear his opponent apart. But something completely unexpected happened. Instead of running away or trying to dodge, Jinwoo did something that confused every single spectator in the arena. He started mopping the floor, not frantically, not as some kind of desperate last act, but with the calm, methodical movements of someone who had spent months perfecting the motion. The mop swept across the arena floor in smooth professional arcs, and wherever it touched, the special cleaning fluid left the surface gleaming and wet. Karthal was so surprised by this bizarre behavior that his charge faltered for just a split second as his brain tried to process what he was seeing. Why was his opponent cleaning instead of fighting? Was this some kind of human death ritual? In that moment of confusion, Karthal's front foot hit the newly mopped surface. The industrial strength cleaning fluid that Jinwoo used was not ordinary cleaner. It was designed to remove alien residues from dozens of different species, which made it incredibly slippery when applied to the arena floor. Karthal's massive form suddenly had no traction. His feet slipped out from under him, and he went down hard, sliding across the arena floor with a sound like an avalanche. The crowd gasped in shock. In 312 battles, no one had ever seen the mighty Karthal fall down, but Jinwoo was not finished. He quickly moved to different spots around the arena, adding more cleaning fluid to strategic locations. His movements were precise and purposeful, like a chess player setting up a complex strategy. What is he doing? The announcer asked, genuinely confused by what was happening. Ambassador Taeho found himself leaning forward in his seat as understanding began to dawn on him. Jinwoo was not just randomly making the floor slippery, he was creating a battlefield that he could control. Karthal roared in frustration and anger as he struggled to get back on his feet. The arena floor beneath him was now like ice, and every movement sent him sliding in directions he did not want to go. He tried to charge again, but now the entire center of the arena had become a skating rink. Jinwoo, meanwhile, moved with complete confidence. He knew exactly where he had placed the slippery areas and where solid footing could still be found. He had been mapping the arena and in his mind for 3 days, learning every surface, every texture, every slight variation in the floor. This is impossible, breathed one of the alien officials. He has turned the arena itself into his weapon. As Karthal flailed and slipped, trying desperately to regain his balance, Jinwoo approached calmly with his mop ready when the alien warrior tried to swipe at him with those deadly claws. Jinwoo used the mop handle like a martial arts staff, redirecting the attack and using Karthal's own momentum to send him sliding away across the slippery floor. The crowd was in complete shock. They had come to see a traditional battle between warriors, but instead, they were watching the most ridiculous and brilliant fighting strategy anyone in the galaxy had ever witnessed. For 15 minutes, the greatest warrior in known space was reduced to slipping and sliding like a child on ice, while a human janitor danced around him with cleaning equipment every time Karthal thought he was adapting to the slippery conditions. Jinwoo would change his tactics. When the alien finally started to figure out where the slippery spots were, Jinwoo pulled out his small toolkit and began making subtle adjustments to the arena's environmental controls. He created small pockets where gravity worked differently, throwing off Karthal's balance even more. The crowd began to realize they were witnessing something historic. This was not just a fight, it was a masterclass in using intelligence and creativity to overcome overwhelming physical disadvantage. Karthal was getting tired and frustrated. He had never encountered an opponent like this, someone who refused to fight in any traditional way, someone who turned the arena itself into a weapon. He kept expecting Jinwoo to make a mistake, to get overconfident and come within range of his claws, but Jinwoo never made that mistake. He had learned patience during his military training. He knew that rushing in for a quick victory was Exactly what Carthol was hoping for. Instead, he continued his methodical strategy, wearing down his opponent both physically and mentally. Some of the alien spectators began to cheer for Jinwu. They had never seen anything like this. David and Goliath story playing out in front of them, a tiny human using nothing but cleaning supplies and clever thinking to defeat the most powerful warrior in the galaxy. Director Zephmon watched from his control booth with all his tentacle eyes wide with amazement. This human had turned what should have been a massacre into the most entertaining fight in tournament history. After 20 minutes, Carthol was exhausted and demoralized. He had gone from being a confident champion to looking foolish in front of the entire galaxy. His reputation as an unstoppable force was crumbling with every slip and slide, but Jinwu was not done yet. He had been studying Carthol during the entire fight, learning his patterns, his reflexes, his weaknesses. Now it was time for the final phase of his plan. The real fight was about to begin. Carthol was breathing heavily now, his massive chest rising and falling as he struggled to catch his breath. 25 minutes of slipping and sliding had exhausted him more than any normal battle ever could. His muscles were cramping from the constant effort of trying to maintain balance on the treacherous floor. Jinwu could see that his strategy was working perfectly. The mighty champion was frustrated, tired, and most importantly off balance both physically and mentally. This was exactly what his military training had prepared him for, the moment when a superior enemy became vulnerable through their own confusion and anger. But instead of pressing his advantage, Jinwu did something that surprised everyone in the arena, including Carthol himself. He stopped fighting Jinwu, set down his mop and spray bottle, and walked slowly toward the center of the arena where Carthol was struggling to stand on the slippery floor. The alien warrior tensed, expecting some kind of sneak attack. But Jinwu simply extended his hand. "What are you doing, human?" Carthol growled suspiciously. "You are tired," Jinwu said simply. "You're frustrated because nothing you learned in 300 battles prepared you for this kind of fight. But that is not your fault. You are a great warrior fighting in the wrong kind of battle." The entire arena fell silent. Everyone was straining to hear this impossible conversation between the human janitor and the galactic champion. "I could keep doing this until you collapse from exhaustion," Jinwu continued, his voice carrying clearly in the quiet arena. "But that would not prove anything except that I am good at making floors slippery. It would not show respect for your skill and experience." Carthol stared at him with all four eyes. "What are you saying?" "I am offering you a choice," Jinwu replied. "We can keep dancing around each other for another hour while you get more and more tired, or you can surrender with honor knowing that you lost to something completely outside your experience, something that no training could have prepared you for." The crowd was murmuring in amazement. No one had ever seen anything like this, a fighter offering his opponent the chance to surrender with dignity in the middle of a championship match. Carthol slowly straightened to his full 8-foot height, studying this small human who had made him look foolish. "You could have humiliated me," he said. "You could have kept making me slip and fall until I was a laughingstock. Why are you stopping?" "Because," Jinwu said, "that would make me no better than a bully. Your strength and skill are real. They deserve respect. I did not fight you this way to make fun of you. I fought this way because it was the only way I could possibly win." For long moments the two fighters stared at each other. Then something unexpected happened. Carthol began to laugh. It started as a low rumble in his chest and grew until it echoed throughout the entire arena. "In 312 battles," he said loudly enough for everyone to hear, "no one has ever defeated me with a cleaning tool. No one has ever turned my own strength against me so completely. Human, you have shown me that there are kinds of warfare I never imagined." He straightened to his full height and raised all four arms high in the air. "I surrender," he declared. "The victory goes to Park Jinwu of Earth." The arena erupted in complete chaos. Some spectators cheered wildly, others argued loudly, and many simply sat in stunned silence, trying to process what they had just witnessed. In the VIP section, Ambassador Tejo found himself surrounded by other ambassadors who suddenly wanted to know everything about humanity. "How many more fighters like this do you have?" The reptilian delegate from Alpha Centauri asked urgently. "What kind of training produces warriors who can think like this?" demanded the bird-like ambassador from the Vega system. Tejo honestly did not know how to answer. He was as surprised as everyone else down In the arena, Jinwoo walked across the slippery floor to where his cleaning equipment lay. He picked up his mop and shouldered it like a soldier carrying a rifle. As he made his way toward the exit, he could see his fellow maintenance workers in. The stand's Choi Sunya was crying and laughing at the same time, wiping her eyes with her work uniform. Lee Dongmin was jumping up and down, screaming in Korean and hugging everyone around him. The other human workers were cheering so loudly they could be heard over the entire alien crowd. The tournament director approached Jinwoo with what looked like complete shock on his alien features. "Park Jinwoo of Earth," he announced formally, "you are hereby declared champion of the Centennial Combat Championship. Your victory grants humanity full recognition as a major galactic power with all the rights and territories that come with that status." Jinwoo bowed politely in the Korean way. "Thank you. It has been an honor to represent my species." Director Zephmon leaned closer with his tentacle eyes focused intently. "How?" he asked quietly. "How did you know this strategy would work?" Jinwoo smiled and adjusted his grip on his mop. "I am a janitor, sir. My job is to solve problems that other people cannot or will not handle. I clean up messes that seem impossible to fix. Today, the mess just happened to be bigger than usual." He started walking toward the exit, but paused and turned back to address the crowd. "Oh, and if anyone needs their floors cleaned, I will be back to work tomorrow morning. The galaxy is a very big place and someone has to keep it tidy." The crowd erupted in laughter and cheers as the most unlikely champion in galactic history walked off the arena floor, still wearing his janitor uniform and carrying his mop. From that day forward, humanity was no longer seen as the weak newcomers to the galactic community. They were the species that had produced a warrior so unconventional, so brilliantly unpredictable that he had defeated the greatest fighter in known space using nothing but cleaning supplies and creative thinking. Trade routes that had been closed to Earth suddenly opened up. Planets that had refused to deal with humans began sending diplomatic missions. Technology and knowledge that had been kept from humanity started flowing freely. The entire political balance of the galaxy shifted because one janitor had proven that being different could be more powerful than being stronger. And somewhere in the maintenance tunnels of the great arena, Park Jinwoo went back to his regular job, mopping floors and emptying trash cans. He whistled softly to himself as he worked, content in the knowledge that he had done what needed to be done. The galaxy was a little cleaner now, and that was exactly how he liked it, but he kept his mop very close by just in case the universe needed cleaning again.